Hey guys, and welcome back to 2-Minute Coder. So today we're doing LeetCode problem 128, which is longest consecutive sequence. So what we have to do here is in O of n time, we have to output what the longest consecutive sequence in nums is. Nums is going to be unordered. So we have to find a way where we can quickly kind of see if there are values present in a certain data structure. So we can use a hash set for that. Let's call it hash set equals new hash set. Okay. But first we can just put a check to see that if nums is empty, then we return 0, because it doesn't say here that nums will have values in it. As you can see, nums length includes 0, right? So let's just have that check in place. Now what we want to do is add all the values to our hash set. So we can do that with the inline for loop as well. So for int num in nums hash set dot add that num. Okay, now that we have all of our values in the hash set, now we have a data structure that we can query in constant time, in O of 1 time, right? So basically, what do we have to find? Intuitively, if you look at nums, we have to find the starting point of a sequence, right? So say we look at 100. Is 100 the starting point of its own sequence? Yes, it is, because 99 does not exist. So we know that 100 is the start point of its sequence. But we can look at it and see that there's no value of 101. So we move on to the next one, 4. Is 4 the start of the sequence? No, it's not, because there's a 3. 200, it is, but we know that the longest sequence right now that we found is just 1, right? Now looking at 1, is 1 the start of a sequence? Yes, it is. Okay, does it have a next value? Yes, it does. Does that have a next value? Yes, it does. And does that have a next value? Yes, it does. Does 4 have a next value? No. So we know that our longest consecutive sequence is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So let's put that into code. Okay, that was just the word-by-word logic. So now that we know that nums is non-null, we know that the minimum longest sequence will be 1. So we can set that, just initialize that variable. Now to iterate through nums, we'll use an enhanced loop again. So for int num in nums, we have to find the start of the sequence, right? So how can we do that? We can again query our hash set. So if hash set does not contain num minus 1, then we know that this is the start of the sequence, right? Now that we've got the start, we have to keep finding if our current value plus 1 exists, or in other words, the next sequential value, right? And we have to keep on doing that until we can't find the next sequential value. So we can use a for loop for that. So while hash set contains num plus 1, what are we going to do? We are going to first, let's initialize another variable, let's just call it count, right? Because we'll compare this to longest to see if we found any longer sequences. So while hash set contains num plus 1, we will increment num, and we will also increment our count. Okay, so if you look at this line, it will execute for 1, right? We found 1, and then we initialize our count as 1 because we already know that this is a sequence in and of itself. Then while there are the next sequential values, we will keep incrementing our num and incrementing our count, because then num will become 2, then num will become 3, and then num will become 4, right? Now when it reaches 4, this will not execute because 5 is not present in nums. So at that point, we can update our longest integer just by comparing it to count. So this will show us if count, or it will just pick out whatever is greater, longest or count. Okay, now that we've done that, what we can do outside of this for loop is just return longest, but we can add a if statement here, which will go like if longest is greater than nums.length divided by 2, we can just break and return longest, because we know that if longest is half the length of nums, even if all the other values form a sequence, their maximum length can only be the other half of nums, right? So there is no way that there can exist a longer sequence. All right, so let's check if this runs. Oops, what? Oh, sorry. Instead of nums, it should be num. Yeah, great. Okay, so that was LeetCode 128. Hope you guys enjoyed, and subscribe for more.